Welcome to this short web tutorial series designed to empower you, the teacher, with the skills and knowledge necessary to create a scaffolded research project, which can then be shared with your students either as a class, a small group, or individually. This series of videos will address this concept from the perspective of a middle school teacher who is teaching extreme weather phenomena. This project will specifically focus on hurricanes, one of the most extreme storm systems in the world. This fifth video in our series will guide you, the teacher, through the process of organizing note cards, color coding note cards, moving note cards around, and attaching note cards to a pre-formatted outline for our project. Let's begin by getting back into our existing project on Noodletools. I'm already logged into my school Noodletools account. On my main page, you can see a list of projects that I've been working on. At the top is my most current project, Blum-Hurricanes. I'm going to double click on the title to open it up. Next, I'm going to visit the vertical blue menu located on the left-hand side of the screen. In the last video, we were concerned about the task of creating note card skeletons. For this video, we are going to discuss the craft of organizing our note cards and showing how they might fit into a project outline, which we are also going to learn. Therefore, I'm not going to click on note cards. This time, I'm going to look for tabletop view and detail view. But in the immediate here and now, I'm going to start by clicking on tabletop view. So as we're looking at our tabletop view, you can see a large workspace with a number of note cards that we've already been working on. Imagine this as the same type of resource as index cards along with a workspace. Prior to the internet and tools such as Noodletools, when students were gathering information for research projects, they would take their textual evidence found in resources along with bibliographic information and write them down on index cards, which could then be organized on a tabletop at the will of the researcher. With these note cards, this workspace is the same way. You can click and drag on a note card to rearrange it however you best see fit. Additionally, you'll notice that new note cards start in the top left-hand corner of this workspace, and you can drag the top one off the note cards underneath and continue to move around. I'm going to start by grouping note cards according to their topic. We have historic hurricanes, we have life cycle of a hurricane, and we have basic facts about hurricanes. So I'm simply going to move around and organize to the best of my ability. Next, as I've been dragging note cards across the screen, you may have noticed when I mouse over them, we have a series of icons that appear at the bottom of each note card. Some of these note cards are going to be more useful for the teacher setting up a scaffolded project. Others might be useful to the student researcher. We're going to start from left and work our way to the right. To begin with, there is a series of flat pieces of paper stacked on top of each other, and we can use this icon to create piles. Piles are groups of note cards that relate to the same topic within the body of the paper. So I'm going to click on my first icon for my first note card, and I'm going to start by creating a pile. This pile is going to be named Basic Facts. Once I'm finished typing in my pile name, I'm going to click Create and Add to Basic Facts. And now, as I go on the second note card and click the stack of papers, I don't need to type in Basic Facts. I now simply need to click the existing pile and send my note card to the Basic Fact pile. I'm going to do the same thing for each of these groups of note cards. Click Add to Pile, and this one will be named Historic hurricanes. Again, this is my first time I'm creating that pile label. So I need to click create and add to historic hurricanes. And last but not least, I'm going to make one last pile for the life cycle of a hurricane. Click create and add to life cycle because this is the first note card being added to a pile named life cycle of a hurricane. And now I just need to click my pile icon and click the existing pile. Life cycle. Again, notice that my new piles did the same thing as new note cards. They gathered at the top left. I can click and drag to reveal existing piles underneath the top one. Moving on, it may appear that these icons have disappeared. They haven't. All you need to do is click on the drop down arrow located to the left of each pile label. You'll see your note cards appear, and underneath each note card, those icons are still there. Next, moving to the right, there's an option to link source. We've actually already linked our note cards when we created them in the previous video, so we don't need to use this tool, but it is there. Apply tag works the same way. We actually went through and we gave our note cards tags. However, you can always add more tags. Again, think of a tag as a keyword or a descriptor about the note card that just allows you to further isolate and identify note cards with commonalities. Applying a cue is going to be more of a student researcher driven tool. When students are conducting their research, they may want to leave reminders for themselves. They can click on these icons underneath each note card, and they can check the relevant boxes to give themselves reminders of what needs to happen with individual note cards. Do they need to ask you, the teacher, for assistance? They can check, need help, or uncheck if they've already received their help. Is a note card incomplete? If so, they can check the incomplete box to remind themselves that they do need to finish working on this note card. Or again, as it's finished, they can uncheck. Now, I'm going to go back to this life cycle of a hurricane, part 1. And I want you, as I'm clicking these individual cues, I want your eyes to be right here on the note card where my mouse is. And you'll see that small icons appear on the note card. And again, these just serve as small reminders to the student if they need to do something with a given note card. Moving on to the next icon, a little painter palette. I find this to be one of the most important and useful tools in this series of icons. I strongly urge that all students and in fact all researchers setting up a scaffolded project, which would be you teachers, color code to the best of your ability. Color coding is a very quick and effective organizational tool that allows you at a glance to see groupings. So I'm going to apply color coding to the note cards in the life cycle of a hurricane. I always teach students to keep color coding consistent. So the life cycle of a hurricane note cards are all going to be a single color. The color that you choose is up to you. I'm going to choose purple. Why? No reason. I just like purple. The more important tip for this icon is that you stay consistent. So you'll notice that every single life cycle of a hurricane note card is colored purple. To put these back in their pile, I'm simply going to click that drop down arrow and let them disappear. I'm now going to click the drop down arrow under basic facts, and I'm going to color code these note cards as well. I think for this pile, I'm going to go with blue. Again, the color choice is arbitrary. What matters is that you are consistent. Finally, for historic hurricanes, I think I'm going to use green. There, all of my note cards are color coded. All right, The last icon is going to be 3 gray dots on top of each other. If you click on that, you'll see 3 options: delete a note card, rename a note card, or pin a note card. Now, we obviously don't want to delete any of these note cards. You can rename them, but quite honestly, because we are working with a scaffolded outline that we're going to give to our students, we're going to ignore this too, and I would certainly advise our students to avoid renaming or deleting any note cards. For pinning a note card, that's very simple. What does this function do? If we click it, you'll see that there's a little area at the top that uses note cards that have been pinned and store them there. You can very easily return it to your pile by going back to those 3 dots and unpinning your note card, and then going back and adding it to the appropriate pile. Now, why would someone want to pin a note card? There's just a couple of reasons. If you have a note card that is in progress, you could pin that note card to remind yourself as the student researcher that you need to go back to that note card. You could also, as the student, use that as a tool if you ask for help from your teacher. You could pin a note card to make it highly visible and simply ask the teacher to look at the note card that has been pinned. You can also use the pinning function if you are, as a student researcher, working with a single note card template. In this case, as we are exploring this project, that does not apply to us because we as the teacher are creating multiple note card skeletons. So unfortunately, we're not going to be encouraging students to use one single note card as a skeleton tool for other note cards in other subjects. And that's how you use the pinning function. Next, we're going to visit Detail View. And you can see that our hard work at organization is really starting to pay off. You can see the note cards grouped under their piles: basic facts, historic hurricanes, life cycle. You can see that each note card within a pile is color coded. Now, this might be a little bit counterintuitive, but if we click on the right side of the note card, it will make the note card appear. And again, please notice, of course, our student researchers haven't used this note card yet, so the instructions are there, but there's not much research there. And that's all right. Be aware that you can also do the same with the pile, so you can make multiple note cards from one pile appear. As a matter of fact, you can even make individual note cards appear. And again, to make them disappear, you just double click that eye.
So what do these little check boxes do? Well, if you check them, you'll see that you can print, and there's a few more functions that you can sometimes use. But again, no different than what you would find under Tabletop View. For the last portion of this project, we're going to learn one of the simplest and easiest things that you can do with Noodletools. You can create a project outline, and either you or your students can attach note cards to the project outline. Let's learn how. We're going to start by going up to the very top of the screen, and we're looking for the word outline. It's written in very small letters, and it doesn't exactly stand out, but it is here towards the right-hand side, and there's a small checkbox next to it. Click that box, and this will appear. So it's an outline for a project, and we can certainly add more topics. So to begin with, let's learn how to add topics and subtopics. I'm going to simply click either a topic or a subtopic and turn it dark blue, and that will tell me that it's selected. Next, I can use my plus sign to either add a topic or a subtopic. Topics and subtopics can be moved around just simply by clicking on them and either using the down arrow or the up arrow, or we can create main topics and subtopics by using the left and right navigational tools. I'm going to label this introduction paragraph. I'm going to label this, and if we think back, we had 3 body paragraphs. So I'm actually going to move this subtopic back. I'm going to move this subtopic back, and I'm going to add one more. Oh dear, it added at the bottom. No problem. I'm simply going to click on it and turn it dark blue, and then click my up arrow to move it up. I'm going to double click so I can type, and I'm going to name it based on those three organizational terms that we've been using: life cycle of a hurricane, basic facts, and historic hurricanes. But I'm not entirely pleased with this outline. I actually think it makes more sense to start with basic facts. So I'm going to click and then click my up arrow. There, that's better. Next, we need to learn how to attach our note cards to our outline. Very easy. Let's go back to our workspace, and we're going to click on this rightwards pointing arrow to make our note cards appear. We can now simply drag and attach our note cards in the appropriate order under the appropriate topic. Let's do the same with historic hurricanes. And finally, let's do the same thing with the life cycle of a hurricane. There you go. We have properly organized our note cards, created an outline, and attached our note cards in the correct order. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, happy researching.